Hey, we're here and we're talking with Tomás Fonseca, who is the mastermind behind Icons of Real Estate. That is the #1 real estate podcast network. Now, Tomás is a podcast producer and coach. He helps professionals create impactful shows using his podcast framework that's applicable to any business. And he envisions just one thing, which is growth. We'll talk about growth, and there's a lot to be said there, right? There's business growth, there's mindset growth, and real estate entrepreneurs, investors, they're a fun crowd because they change lives. They wake up excited to get out of bed and to conquer the world. So Tomás will tell us how real estate guys really have it dialed in. He's had 1,000+ episodes, all kinds of amazing interviews, a lot to be learned. So Tomás, glad to be speaking with you.
Glad to be here, Robert. Thanks for the invitation. And yeah, from that bio, you know me so well. So I'm excited for what we're showing your audience today.
I'm excited as well. And, podcasting, it's a great filter, right? If someone's willing to show up on a podcast in many different contexts, it really kind of separates people that are maybe still limited, still working on a few things, right? Still self-sabotaging, not serious, versus those who are like overcoming the fear and the public speaking and the uncertainty of networking. So when like you and me here, we're stepping up, right? When you have a business owner, and they're willing to get on a podcast that's like, hey, here's someone I really want to talk to. And that's why it's amazing and valuable to listen to podcasts. And when there's all these guests in a real estate show, they all have unique takes. They've all accomplished so many different things. And so, tell me about it. What gets you jazzed, excited, fired up about real estate, about podcasting? What's your current focus and passion?
Yeah, so I landed in real estate head first, and it was a niche that we decided first to focus not in podcasting but in SEO, right? For the ones that are not so well aware, SEO, search engine optimization, it can be your best friend and your worst enemy, with very big expectations and sometimes too long results, right? And we're working as a SEO agency, and I always had a bigger passion for quicker results and more accessible ones. And we had our own podcast, Icons of Real Estate, that we've managed to mash it out into a relationship building podcast. So it's exactly as you said, Robert. It's a great filter for all of the people out there, especially real estate agents. People don't realize, but there are more than 1 million real estate agents in the US. I think it's one in 10 Americans have a real estate license, but only a very small percentile actually make a living of it. So you do need to filter whoever is serious about their business and not. And whoever comes on our podcast, they are serious about their business. And as we're coming on, trying to grow our SEO business here and there, people are more interested in what we're doing on the podcast. Like, oh, you really have a good thing going here. Like, can you do that for me? And I was like, no, like I sell bananas. I don't have apples, And when too many people ask you for bananas, you try to realize where can you get bananas, And we started producing podcasts, and we've been focusing ever since.
Very great. Well, one thing led to another, and I can definitely relate to that of saying, well, hey, here's what I set out to do. Here's my focus. And then you keep getting the same question, can you do this? And you're like, hey, I don't want to get distracted. I don't want to get gullible. Don't want to chase every single shiny object. But then when you keep getting this again and again, you're like, hey, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I should pivot or add to what my business does. And so when you mentioned a few very helpful benefits when it comes to podcasting, right? You say that, well, when you're looking to build up your SEO and you have to like write these articles and think about keywords, it's a lot of like generating something from nothing versus you have these natural conversations like you and I do, and all these keywords and titles naturally abound, not to mention the names of your guests, right? People are searching for that, the company names, and then not to mention the networking, right? Like someone experiences podcasting or they experience this conversation with you, and it opens a lot of doors. And so one thing that I think about a lot is this idea of making publicity important, right? Because you figure, say you go and you talk to like a real estate agent or a real estate investor, and there's like different types, right? There's the kinds that they just kind of clock in, they're working at a place, and then there's the larger than life ones, right? The ones that they have like the photo, and when there's the for sale sign, like they're on the side. Yeah, and it's always that pose, like they kind of they fit the profile, right? They have the look, they do the advertising, they kind of do this extra 10-20%. And I always find that fascinating, right? That there's like, you do your job, your work, you serve your clients, but then there's like this extra going above and beyond, and kind of jumping in without really knowing what the end result will be, right? You show up on a podcast, you do an interview, you don't really know what kind of SEO or what kind of leads or traffic that will result in. So do you ever think about that? Just the kind of the need to do not even 100 or 110%, but do like 130% of like going out there and like churning up the publicity.
Yeah, for me, the publicity, I see it as extra. You know, Robert, there's a lot of things that you can go beyond it in terms of course, SEO articles. You can then create an SEO article not just for you, but for the guests. So, how is that? That's going to increase the reach and also provide you a backlink for your website, which is going to increase its authority. You can post it on social media, repurpose that, have the guest then invite as a collaborator, so you can get both posts on both accounts. We had a few, I think it was last week, one of the episodes. Like, if a guest doesn't accept the collaboration request, we have a few views, we have a few likes. Nothing out of the ordinary. Like, we had a super guest accepted our request. Like, we had more than 1,000 likes, more than 50,000 views on the reels that we had. So there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of the publicity on the above the line part of marketing here. What I like to control, what I like to focus on is on what I control. And what I control is what's in front of me. What's in front of me right now, it's you, Robert Black. So it's the relationships that we then can mesh out into, of course, depending on the industry, but it's the building of the relationships that you can then create into business ventures. There are 52 weeks in a year, right? A normal cadence to doing a podcast is 50, it's once a week. So you're interviewing 52 people. If you really mash out into your ideal guests, you're talking with your ideal avatar, right? For 52 times. People that you haven't met, because if you would probably have messaged them on LinkedIn, they would probably ignore you. And if you try to call them, you would have to go through some assistant first. So the podcast is a really nice door opener for actually a natural relationship to get started. And you have those 52 relationships. It's not so crazy to think that if you treat those 52 relationships like they're worth $2 million, let's put it, as a relationship can even be worth $2 or $2 million, right? You either buy me a Big Mac, or we make a huge deal together. If you treat 52 like they're worth $2 million each, it's not so crazy to think that some of them will be. And we've seen that in our within our case studies, and it's impressive the work that you can do on the podcast on the background of it. And that's why I see everything around on the publicity, everything, the likes, the vanity metrics, all of that is extra. If someone is watching your podcast and they see and they go to the call to action, to the description, you need to understand this user journey is a long one. It's a hard one to get, right? You really need to have a lot of views, a lot of traction to actually get someone get in touch with you because of a podcast. If you do, of course, you're super happy. It's like, oh my God, this works. I'm glad this is not a scam. But what I like to focus on is what I can control, Robert, and that's on the relationships that come in through the pipeline, through the funnel of the guesting, and that's where we work with different. Of course, I'm talking real estate agents that they have referral relationships, that they have recruiting relationships, investment relationships, and all that. But all of the other even high ticket industries or service industries can also use this framework.
Very nice. And they talk about this idea of like do things that don't scale, right? And that seems to be what you're describing. Like, you can run more ads, you can crank out more chat GPT SEO articles, but as far as like making the time to meet like we're doing here, and you set aside the time to like fully focus and have this conversation and listen, like that's a differentiator, right? It's like, you mentioned about LinkedIn. It's so on the rise, right? We all deal with that. We get all these spammy LinkedIn messages. You're like, I know that this person sent 1,000 messages like this today. I'm one of 1,000. But then if there's like you and me, we're on a podcast. I learned of you from Mr. Chris Reed from Ardor SEO, and I had him on my podcast like 7, 8 years ago, and I think I might have
Mhm.
had him on since. And then he's like, "Hey, there's this guy Tomas. You have to have this conversation." You and I were like, "Of course." So that's something that it doesn't scale well unless you work 40 hours a day. And then also there's kind of the subtext you're mentioning here of like the value of your podcast listeners, right? And it's like podcasting is a great research tool. What do you do if you're dealing with a problem? Well, you read the articles, you join the Facebook groups, but then you tune into podcasts. But there's also a limit to how many podcasts you can really follow, right? Like you can follow maybe like 2 or 3, but it's not like you can listen to like 30 different podcasts every week unless you were like a crazy person with nothing else to do. So it's like there's that value in that podcast listener. And like there's always these stats of like if someone's listening to your podcast, there's this percentage that they'll listen to like all of it, every episode. They'll listen to the episode start to finish. So there's like we're going from like you mentioned vanity metrics, or like the people not really paying attention, right? The superficial people with like a view or a click. But then there's like the listen on a podcast. Like now we're really dealing with quality content, quality relationships, quality listeners. And so, as far as this very excellent podcast that you have here, the Icons of Real Estate, is there anything that is noteworthy about that? Because, I'm here to help you, Mr. Tomas. I'm here to get people excited and listening to the Icons of Real Estate show. And so, is there like a standout guest or a recurring topic that you keep coming across in this very cool show?
So we one of the reasons that we're becoming one of the top shows nationwide is because, for one, we record like hell. You know, even on the scalability of things. Of course, you should delegate what you hate, and scalability is what, like Alex Hormozy always tells us. It's the path to success. But right now we have on our Icons of Real Estate, which is a podcast that I started hosting by myself. Right now we have 4 different hosts. So we release one episode a day. That's 200 and something, I think 250, 260 every single year. All right. So one of the reasons that we're being one of the tops is because of the volume of content that we're putting out, right? It doesn't matter if it's good or not, it's just we're pushing out there. Of course, we make it good because we tailor each episode to the genius of the guest that is coming in. So when the guest is coming in, and very similar to what you were doing with yours, Robert, right? We're talking about like, what is my genius, right? Like maybe our genius is actually communal, but if you will be talking about you doing something else that I have no business in, of course I'll be a little bit lost. So we talk about whatever genius is on the side of the guest, and then makes us diversify our content in a big manner, from talking about short-term rentals, from talking about the NAR settlement, which is a big topic in the real estate industry, from talking about from small brokerages to top brokerages to teams, to individual agents, to international agents. So we have everything in real estate. So you don't go there to listen to sports. Well, you get a little bit of comedy there, a little bit of drama, but the main topic, it is real estate. So if you're interested in knowing more about real estate, how to be a top producing agent, Icons of Real Estate is the podcast to listen to.
Well, very cool. And you're not kidding, right? As far as the different topics, there's even like subliminal science in real estate was posted today. That's so cool, right? That Sometimes
Yeah,
people talk
it's
about
everything.
financing or short-term rentals, but even like, hey, subliminal messaging. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we had even a couple of coaches on the also different sign language, different types of language. Of course, AI has been covered a bunch of times, but even we also so our main guests there are real estate agents, but we also then invite other partners, so other industry partners that have like solutions that you've never heard in your life. So it's always a good platform to showcase them.
And I think that you bring up a really helpful point that we're always told to the niche down, right? And just like focus on a little area of expertise. And that's great if it's just you talking, but then because, only one person can be so much of an expert. And then when you're too broad, too wide, now you're just kind of talking about stuff that you don't know very well or do very well. And Google has this thing called EEAT, right? The expertise, and
Mhm.
authoritativeness and trust experience. And so it's
Yeah.
like, well, I can't be if I've never done a short sale, then who am I to talk about that? But you bring someone else on who has a short sale, and then you're kind of like expanding that circle, and in a lot of helpful ways, right? You get all more SEO, all more traffic, but then there's reciprocity. And so as far as when you get guests on your show, right? There's always reasons to not do a podcast or to talk yourself out of it, and sometimes there's just the need to get over that. But is there anything that when you have these real estate guests on your show, is there anything like you wish they knew going in before doing an episode with you?
Well, I wish they would be a little bit maybe more relaxed. That the thing is, I always give them a line, which is like I like to be this as organic as Eden's apple. Of course, Eden's apple must have something in it, right? But it's really just keep everything going. Even you, Robert, you told me that hey Tomas, I want to keep this on a good flow. I don't like to plan much. Just let's just go and have a conversation. And usually, like if we're having a conversation about my genius, like I don't need to prepare, Robert. I don't need to go read some lines, or like I don't have lines here or notes on my computer. Like I'm just speaking from my heart. So like this, whenever you're going to a podcast that, well, it's obviously about your industry, there's no need to relax. Just be yourself and have fun. Of course, if I was invited for, I don't know, a wood carving podcast, I'll probably need to watch a few YouTube videos. To talk about podcasting, I don't need to watch any videos. So it's the only thing that I would say is just to um, be yourself and be confident also of the value that you offer, and don't try to be something that is going to please the audience, because usually people, they see through that through that attempt, and they don't like it.
Yeah. So two pieces of helpful advice, right? You say be relaxed and also be confident in the value that you offer. And it seems like when you go in with those two attributes figured out, then there's the kind of implication there that you've achieved mastery, right? If you're having imposter syndrome, if you're insecure, that shows, right? If you overcomplicate, well, you haven't really gotten to mastery. So if you really know your stuff, as far as subliminal advertising in real estate or leveraging your income or property management, whatever your niche is in real estate, you've done it. You've gone through the hard stuff. You've simplified. Now you're teaching it. It's time to relax and have that conversation. And it's a lot less scary than we all would make ourselves believe. What isn't it, Tomas? Like, even if you don't know the answer to a question, you could be a politician and say, hey, I don't know that, or I want to pivot to some other question. It's like you and I both know when we're the podcast hosts, we want the guest to be there, and we're going out of our way to make that podcast guest look good and look smart. It's not like a scary
Exactly.
news program where we're trying to catch you on saying the wrong thing. We're like, hey, I'm here to make you look really good, and I want to seem like a smart person for knowing you, and I want my audience to know all about you. And so, we're a couple of podcasting pros, right? We're both in the 1,000 plus episode club. I wish that was a thing. Maybe it is. We can both join it. But in
We can
the
create the club.
context, Lee, there we go. Let's create that together. So, in the context of us kind of having a fun conversation, like I've only just met you, but I'm sure there's like a really smart question that I could ask you. I just don't know what to ask you. So, is there like a missing, hidden, invisible question in our conversation that I should be asking you? I just don't know what to ask you.
Robert, I'm more of a fan of the answers than the questions.
Okay.
But what I can say, just so people can understand how podcasts are focused on, business growth and nothing else. Like, if you people think that podcasts fail because of commitment, because, oh, I don't have time to record, I don't have time to edit, or I don't have budget to do this, or this has been a waste of money. But the real reasons that podcasts have been failing is not the commitment, is not the investment, is the vision. You know, people, most of them, they don't know what they're doing a podcast for, and even when they do, they don't attach that to their brand goals, their business goals. So podcasting can be seen as a very serious business growth tool, and this is how we're marketing it. And it's the only tool that you can do two things that a business owner should always do, which is building relationships and create content. You're getting two birds with one stone here. All right. And it's magical because people, they waste so much time in creating content, right? But they're not really creating relationships. They were in there, on Canva, trying to see what design is looking better, or trying to hire someone on Upwork to do a reels. They're not creating relationships there. And when they're door knocking, or going on events, which is, events would be ideal, but you cannot go to an event every week.
Right.
Um, so they are creating relationship, but they're not creating content, right? So this is a way that, like, me and Robert right now, we're talking, we're creating a relationship between us, and then uh, like, content will come out of this, and possible business ventures between me and Robert, and this is what you can have within your business spectrum as well. So I just wanted to reiterate kind of what the power of podcasting here.
Yes. So the question is, why are we doing this, and why do podcasts fail? Well, the podcasts fail because they don't align with the person's business goals. And what should those goals be? You say two birds in one stone. You say create content and build relationships. And when when you and I open up LinkedIn and we see these really amazing graphics, really amazing reels, it's usually from a podcast, right? And it's like, if
Yeah.
I sat down in a blank Canva and like, oh, let me think of like a real clever quote. Oh, let me find like a quote from like Thomas Jefferson or Ben Franklin. Everyone's seen it 200 times. But then you find something from a podcast and it's completely original. And it's, maybe you have to like change a couple words and like rephrase it to like the phrase it should have been. But like so many times, the unexpected magic happens from a podcast conversation. And like one of us says something like really catchy and smart, and it's like kind of come out of nowhere, and it's way better than just trying to force it. And then also and we've all also been there when we post the graphic or the reel and it gets like one, like not even one, like one view, right? One impression. It's like it probably was us. And then you have these relationships, and you like you have Tomas on my show or vice versa, and then that other person on LinkedIn or whatever platform, they have their whole other network. So it's like we're using their traffic, and it's like two people's traffic sources. Is not just you hoping the algorithm will help you. It's like, hey, Tomas said this really cool quote. We'll put it on a reel. My audience will see it. We'll tag him. His audience will see it. There's likes, there's shares, there's comments. It's a lot more of what you figure the internet and social media and business networking was supposed to be all along, right? And you mentioned going to the conferences and stuff. What happens when you meet someone at a conference? Well, you have that deeper relationship with them, right? And so that's kind of one-on-one podcasting. There's so many benefits, so much to be said and done about it. And so as far as someone taking the next step with you, right? A podcast is fun for a taste, a tease, an idea of what can be done, but then it's time to actually implement. So as far as getting attention about your podcast and your podcast production and your company, what are some next steps here? How can someone find out more about the very great Tomás Fonseca?
So we have a website, which is iconsrealestate.com. Real easy to find that, and within the website, we'll guide you. We'll guide towards you getting on a Zoom with me or getting on a Zoom with one of our podcast experts. Really, the first step for you is first to have the intention to grow. We only work with people that want to grow. So if you don't grow, I don't want to be too harsh, but don't bother. Don't bother. Trying to start a podcast because it's gonna fail alongside you. If you want to grow and you're serious about it, you can reach out to us. We have a very simple process of first, of course, discovering a little bit more about you, about what you have for your business, and then we place how can a podcast help you get closer to your goals. It may or it may not. All right, we're not going to phone you. We only work with people that we believe that we're going to have the success in, as we like to keep our success rate strong, and we do accept most most of the people. But if you're a real estate agent looking to grow your business, and are tired of the traditional marketing or the expensive Zillow leads, and are looking to actually grow a brand, something that will attract leads to you and will help you build referral relationships, then a podcast is the way to go. And you should get started like right now.
And like right now, like yesterday, well, you don't have a time machine, so the next
Yes,
best
I mean
is do it
yesterday.
right now.
Yesterday I was busy. Yesterday I was busy.
Yeah.
Right now I'm available. It's more like that, you know.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there. They call that a pre-qualifier, right? When someone says, "Well, why should I spend all this time doing a podcast, doing like hundreds, thousands of interviews?" And you say, "Well, you have a podcast with the right people, right? With your vendors, with your clients, with people you want to have more of a conversation with." And so I like what you dropped in there. You said, "Hey, here are my pre-qualifiers for speaking with me, Tomás." You say, number one, you need to have business growth in mind. You have to not be satisfied with where you're at, like you want more. And then number two, you say, well, I need a podcast and I want to have that conversation because the expensive Zillow leads, knocking on doors, cold calls, yellow letters, all the stuff that real estate agents do, that's all great, but it's very competitive and very cutthroat, and we want some new way of going about it, and which gives us SEO, social media content, and relationships, and all these other great, wonderful things. And so we say that website is iconsofrealestate.com. You can go
That's
there.
it.
You can apply to be a podcast guest, find out about the production service, listen to the show and with people who just talk about all kinds of things like real estate in Tampa specifically. They talk about your real estate
Everywhere.
career. I mean, fashion and luxury real estate. There's something for everyone of all genders and ages and lifestyles. So it's the Icons of Real Estate podcast. And then on LinkedIn, that's Tomás Fonseca, TOMASFONSECA. But most importantly, iconsofrealestate.com. And before I let you go, Tomás, it's time for the scary part of the show where I try to stump you. I try to put you on the spot. Here we go. I asked for a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served you in life or in business. So what comes to mind for you as far as a fun quote or lesson?
For me, it was my friends through my personality. They always said that I was a born stoic, and I obviously had to go read some meditations from Marcus Aurelius, and I put myself reading the book, agreeing with some things, disagreeing with others. I realized that I'm not a full blown stoic, but I do agree and live by one thing. That is, focus on what you can control and don't worry about the rest. And this has been easy in such a big personal level, and also career wise and business level. Because the our attention span right now, it's so little, but at the same time we have a lot in our minds, right? So before, it was kind of the opposite, right? If we're talking 500 years ago, we had a big attention span, and well, not too much going on. And right now we have a little attention span and a lot going on. So like, by worrying only about what you can control, like, kind of helps you soothe your critical thinking, and making decisions, and obviously sleeping better at night. So that's my lesson that I live by, and I would recommend to every one of you.
1,000%. That might be one of the biggest secrets to life, if not the number one biggest secret, right? They call it the serenity prayer. And if you are worried and having anxiety about all these things you can't change, you suffer twice in your mind, right? It's like you
Yeah.
suffer about it about to happen, and then it happens anyway because you can't control it. And it's like, why put yourself through that? And especially when it comes to podcasting, you think about who you can talk to, whose shows you can be on, who can be on your show. That's something that you can control. You put in enough of the inputs and you get the callbacks and the leads and enough of the outputs. And I think that's a more logical way to go about it. But we need someone like Tomás from iconsofrealestate.com to give us advice like that and to help us break out of our own thinking. And sometimes even remind us, because it's easy to backslide and like go back to that negativity mindset. We don't want that. We want to be associated with winners. We want to be a winner. And your next step to becoming a winner in real estate and podcasting and all these different areas is to go to iconsofrealestate.com, where you can discover top real estate podcasts and learn how podcasting boosts your career. Iconsofrealestate.com. You're going to love it. Mr. Tomás Fonseca, fabulous speaking with you today.
Thank you so much, Robert. It was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. And this is also the magic of podcasting right now. We haven't covered that, but I'm in Vietnam, and I don't know where you are, Robert. Where are you?
California.
California to Vietnam. Look at that. 15
Instantly.
hours difference. And here we are creating content and building relationships. This is the power of podcasting.
All right.